In a recent video, I discussed what it would be like to retire today at age 65 with a $1 million nest egg and what you could expect from that $1 million nest egg to see whether or not you might be able to make it work. Because I think a lot of people could, even though what even started that conversation was an actual client that said, Tim, I have $1 million, but I don't think it's enough. But anyway, in a recent video, we discussed that at a very high level view. And in today's video, I'm going to discuss using our planning software down in the weeds of a different couple that has about the same situation getting ready to retire and what they can expect. So let's dive right in. Okay, diving right in. We have Jack and Sue Sample, and they have a net worth of $1,285,000. And as you can see, they're both 63. And Jack has a 401k with about $500,000 in it. Sue has a 401k with $400,000 in it. And usually we might see a little bit with some Roth accounts, but they didn't have any here, and that's fine because that's what we're going to do, right? Try to get as much money into the Roth as we can. Made some other videos about that. We're not going to go on that today. We're going to focus more on the income that we can actually have in their nest egg or from their nest egg. They also have a joint bank account with $35,000 in it, and they have a joint investment account with $100,000 in it, and they have a primary home worth $250,000. Okay, so jumping right into the main screen that I like to look at because it has so much information once we have all the inputs in. And that is the cash flow. It shows all the inflows and outflows of their situation in retirement. So as I said, they're 63, they want to retire at 65, and then they just want to live life similar to the way they have been. They have a little property with a lake, so they're planning on spending a lot of time there. They said they would need about $6,000 a month in retirement. And now that is not going to include healthcare or their property taxes. The property's paid for, but we went ahead and put property tax in there as well because it's kind of high in Illinois, as I've mentioned in other videos. But it's definitely something that we want to account for. And then I love this screen of cash inflows and outflows because it has so much detail. Once we have the inputs put in of what they expect to spend, and then what their inputs are going to be, and then what their nest egg is, we can kind of make some assumptions and we can see what their situation is going to be. So in this scenario, they're both 63. They're going to work another year and together making $170,000 a year. And they have some company matches going on, and they're still going to contribute to the retirement plan. So we have plan savings of $9,500, as you can see right here. And then what happens? Well, they retire, right? They're going to retire, and then their income's going to go down. Now, what we did was we had Sue go ahead and flip on her Social Security at a young age of 65. And so that's what that $25,000 is there. If you take a look at this, we've got Social Security income. This is Sue's Social Security right here, while we're going to push Jack's out to age 70. We like to do that a lot. So you're getting some money from Social Security, but then you're also maxing out the higher earner. You're pushing his out to age 70. And so that you can maximize what he's going to get. Because what is Social Security? Well, basically it's insurance in case you live too long. And that's always how I like to frame it. Now, taking a look at their expenses. Now here we have expenses, right? And here, while they're still working, their company's paying for healthcare, so it's zero. Now what happens here at 65? Well, now they have retired, so we have to go down into start paying parts B and D premium for Medicare, and then we put a little bit in there for all other expenses, because usually you're going to be paying some stuff out of pocket as well. So now you have to account for healthcare. So that's what we've done here. So you've gone from having a tax payment when they were still working, and then so a little bit of savings here, a tax payment of $40,700. And then as you can see here, it goes down, and as I mentioned, we have the Social Security income coming in. And then here's the plan expenses. So these guys needed $6,000 a month. And that, with the healthcare on top of that and the property tax and everything, that's going to add up to about $89,000 a year. This is the housing. As I mentioned, it's paid off, but that's what this adds up to. So here's their total expenses, and this is adjusted for inflation of about 2%. Okay, so now we have so many cash inflows and we have so many cash outflows, right? Well, if we only have this much coming in income from Social Security, and we need total outflows of 89 and then 91, almost 92, and then 96, and so on and so forth, where's that coming from? Well, that's what this over here, this net flow shows. This is coming from our nest egg. So we have flows coming in from there. And then as you can see, we have zero tax payment here, which obviously we would do some tax planning because a great time to do some good tax planning moves with people with pre-tax money or tax deferred accounts is in the gap years between retirement and RMD age. But what we can see here is their tax payment basically goes down to almost nothing. And why is that? Well, they're living off of that joint account and Social Security. So then at age 68, they run out of the joint account money and have to start pulling money from their tax deferred account. So as you can see here, their tax payment jumps back up for a couple years. And then what happens here? Well, we have Jack's Social Security is going to kick in. And so that's going to be taxed by the way Social Security is taxed is a provisional income formula and the thresholds they put on top of that. But if we get a higher amount from that, that means less of our money that we're going to take out of our pre-tax accounts is going to be taxed. And that's why the tax payment drops back down once we flip on his Social Security here. So this is what happens to the tax payments. And for all of this, we've assumed a 7.3% growth rate with the investment funds. As I mentioned, with the living expenses, they're going to need $6,000 a month. And this is also inflation adjusted here, living expenses, and it just goes up over time because of inflation. Housing, same thing. And then healthcare, same thing. Oh, and as you can also see here, once we flip on Jack's Social Security, the net flows from their investment accounts from their nest egg are going to go down, right? Because now we're getting more from Social Security, so it's going to go down. So here it's a little bit higher because we have some gap years. He's not taking Social Security. And then here we have to take a little bit more yet because we have to take enough out to pay the tax on it as well. So it bumps up a little bit more. And then it drops down here because we flip on Jack's Social Security. And then what happens here? Well, at age 75, we have to start taking RMDs out, right? So it's a big enough payment that we're not going to use all of it to live on because as you can see over here, we have total inflows about 160,000, and while our total outflows are only 131. So that excess is going to be put back into a joint investment account because you have to take it out of the tax deferred, right? But they are not using all of that to live on, so now the excess is going to go back into a taxable account. Now, let's take a look at a withdrawal rate because that's what's most important in retirement when you're living on part of your nest egg as an income stream. We have to look and make sure that we have a safe withdrawal rate. And a typical rule of thumb is 4%, between 4% and 5%. We do a little bit higher withdrawal rate at my firm because we use a guardrail withdrawal strategy. So it's typically between 5 and 6%. Most of our clients really like it because we can show them in dollars and cents what we can do and how much we can send them. And basically it's a dynamic withdrawal process, which means it can change with the market. That way we have a plan if the proverbial you-know-what hits the fan. Okay, so now we can see their withdrawal rate over time. And this again is basically going to fluctuate because they've retired and then when we flipped on Social Security for Sue and then Jack. Right? So as you can see, the first few years, the withdrawal rate is going to be 5.3, 5.2, 5.3, 6.1, and 6.2. But that's fine that it bumps up a little bit there before Jack flips on Social Security, because as you can see, once he does that, the withdrawal rate drops all the way back down to 2%, which is pretty darn safe. And then you got 1.6, 1.6, and then what happens here at 75? Well, it bumps back up because of RMDs, right? We have to start taking the money out of those pre-tax accounts. Even though we're going to put some of it back into a joint account, it still counts as part of the withdrawal rate here. And then it just keeps getting higher and higher and higher, but still well within range as long as you are invested properly. And that's also a good key. Also, the assumptions on returns are about 7.3% per year for this nest egg. Now, obviously, the software is linear. It just shows numbers, right, and probabilities. We're going to have very lumpy returns in the market. So it's not going to be a consistent 7.3 every year. We might have one year where we're down 10 or 15. We might have another year where we're up 30, right? But the software is going to just show a steady what to expect over 5, 10, 20, 30 years. Because over time, the lumpy returns of the S&P 500 or the total stock market of the United States typically has a pretty good pattern of going up. Okay, so now another question that they had was, okay, we say that we think we're going to spend about $6,000 a month, now including our property taxes and our healthcare, but on top of that, What if we say, we get to the end and we look at their portfolio, and what this is showing now, the scenario analysis, is what happens over time with their inflows and outflows and with their nest egg. And as you can see, over time, it's gonna grow from $1 million. And again, with the 7.3% return, it's showing that it's gonna grow up to about at 88, about almost just under $3 million. So they're in pretty good shape, right? So what if I say, hey, what if we spend a little bit more money? Maybe we raise this up to $7,000 a month. And let's see what that does. Well, they're still gonna get to the end of their retirement with a couple $1 million, or certainly over $1 million still. So they can raise that up and still be in pretty good shape, because we have the current situation right here where they're gonna end up with almost 2. And then here we have, okay, the proposed at the very end, what this last couple of years is showing, if long-term care kicks in, which is also a statistic, and you spend, quite a bit of money in the last couple of years of your life on long-term care. That's what this big drop here is. But the proposed amount, even if we raise it up another $1,000 a month, then they're still going to be in good shape. And that's what this is showing, is basically we can take all these numbers and we can kind of move them around to predict different situations of what will happen over time. Now, with any plan, as soon as we walk out the door, things are going to change, right? And that is why we have all this information that we are continuously changing. We're updating the numbers all the time. And that is why we choose to walk with our clients through retirement, so we can keep an eye on everything. Because as I said, right, once we have a plan, the minute you walk out the door, things start to change. But this can really drill down into the information to determine whether or not a $1 million nest egg will work for you. It's always great to be able to go a little bit more down in the weeds for our clients or our prospective clients and show them with a few assumptions or input changes what can happen to their retirement over time. I would appreciate it if you would also let us know if this did any good, if this is showing anything that you want to know. We're putting out content every week, and of course we want to put out content that you guys will watch and enjoy and learn something from. So let us know if this was helpful at all and what maybe you might like to see in the future. Thanks, and I'll see you in the next video. Once again, Tim Doehrmann here, founder of Eagle Ridge Wealth Advisors. And if you would like to see how we help our clients get the most out of their financial lives in retirement, please visit us at erwealth.com, and we hope to see you there.